In this video, we're going to talk about which highlighters smear with printer ink. So I have an inkjet printer. So FYI, all these results are with an inkjet printer. If you have a laser printer, it might differ slightly. So the reason I'm doing this video is because a reader commented on my blog asking for highlighter recommendations. And then I thought, well, I've never really had an issue with highlighting on like my printouts for, weekly planners or anything like that. And I'm like, well, if they're asking, maybe they're having a problem, and I don't really want to just rattle off like one highlighter brand. I want to give options. So I've done a full detailed testing on low standard print quality, medium, and then also high. So we can compare if extra like ink made a difference, which, spoiler alert, looking at all these swatches, as you can tell, it didn't. And also going to give some recommendations of some of my favorites and why, but really the short answer is pretty much any highlighter should work. Any highlighter from a well-known brand should also be just fine. So if you want to have a look at the detailed results, then you can keep watching. Otherwise, I'll have a link down below to my blog. If you want more tips for planner supplies, you can go check that out. Okay, so firstly, the low print quality is here, the medium is these two, and the high is here on the right. So if we compare just the low print quality, you can see that all of these brands were totally fine. There was no smearing. It didn't make a difference if I used a darker color versus a lighter color versus a neon. It was all fine, no smearing. Now, the one that I used to always go to when I was at uni and highlighting printout notes were these ones here, the Text Surfer Classic, because it says on the highlighter, which I have here, that it's inkjet safe. So I always just use that one. But as my collection grew, when I started my blog and kind of went out of hand with all my stationery supplies, I did buy more highlighters. And these later ones here that I purchased, also by Staedtler, they don't say the inkjet safe, but they're still totally fine. As you can see, it was no issue with smearing for either of them. And there was no problem also with the erasable highlighters, and then same with the wax highlighters. But I will say that I think wax highlighters are less pleasant, I guess, to highlight with. You can see that sometimes it jumps a bit and it just feels a bit different when you're highlighting with them. Like, my instinct is to push down quite hard on them, which I think will make you use up the wax quite quickly. So personally, I'm not really too much of a fan of wax highlighters. If you don't like getting ink on your hands, then maybe you prefer those, but I just like the normal highlighters. But I tested them just in case anyone was interested. So then on the medium quality swatches, we can see similar results again, no smearing. It was all fine. Even the IKEA ones, which aren't really a true highlighter, they're more like a marker pen, but sometimes I'll use them for highlighting because they come in a pack with lots of colors, including like a dark blue, which you can't really get in a highlighter. So that's why I tested those. And even when I went back twice, because they're quite thin, I had to do two goes with it, and it's still totally fine. No ink smearing. So that was good. Same again, it's all fine. And then I did high print quality because I thought a bit more ink, maybe that'll get some smearing happening, so I can at least advise what not to use. But again, was totally fine. So conclusion, use pretty much any highlighter that you want. I do have plenty of blog posts where I've given recommendations of some of my favorites and why, and I did just grab a few which I thought I would just show, just because it can be a bit overwhelming. I mean, you can see, look at all the different brands that I swatched here. You're probably going, oh my god, okay, so if they all were fine, then what other reasons would you consider for choosing a highlighter? So I grabbed some that I would recommend for highlighting for different things. So obviously the Staedtler, they're a favorite of mine. A classic. They're readily available, so you can get them from Officeworks in Australia, like Amazon, pretty much anywhere. So they're easy to get a hold of. They last a very long time. They're very good quality and have a nice big chisel tip. So this was font size 14 for all of these swatches. And these ones here, which are slightly larger, did fully highlight the entire word. So you can see here, some of the thinner ones didn't quite make it, but this one fully covered the words. So that's why I recommend the Staedtler. Also love the Stabilo Boss. They're quite similar to the Staedtler, also very readily available. The reason I'd recommend the Stabilo Boss over the Staedtler is because these come in so many different colors. They've got the widest range of highlighter colors that I have found, with a bunch of nice rainbow colors like pastel, neon, a good mix. Very good for doing color coordinated planner spreads, and obviously for just general highlighting your uni notes or whatever you're using it for. Also quite affordable, come in lots of different highlighter pack sizes, and you can usually find them available individually in stationery stores as well. So that's why I recommend the Stabilo Boss. I also really like the Zebra Just Fit, and I particularly love it because it comes in this pretty teal color, which I'm a huge fan of because it's not a color that is very readily available for all highlighter brands. It is also dual tip, so you have the usual chisel tip of a highlighter, and then you have a thinner tip. I don't think the camera's focusing, but you have a thinner one if you want to do underlining as well. Then you only need to carry the one highlighter, and then you can just have 2 in 1 basically. If another 2-in-1 appeals to you, another option is the Art Line, and this one has dual color. So if you like to do color coding but you don't want to carry a whole bunch of highlighters, this one has a very sleek like pen look, and they both have the chisel tip at either end. Even though it's covered on the cap here, it's both chisel tip, so you only need to carry a few highlighters, not a whole stack, because these are quite bulky. These ones aren't really ideal for on the go, because you can see that 3 of them, like, you can carry 2 for just 1. Sorry if there's traffic noise, there was a motorbike that just went past. My other recommendation is the Tombow, probably going to say it wrong, I think it's K-Coat or Key-Coat. And this one is also dual tip, but it has a finer tip at the end, similar to the Zebra Just Fit, with the thinner marker versus highlighter. And the reason I recommend this one is because you can see that the chisel, if the camera wants to focus, is extended on either side, so it really holds its shape. It doesn't get bent out of whack like you will see with the Faber-Castell. Oops, sorry, I'm trying to do this one-handed while filming, just bear with me. So if we look at the Faber-Castell that I have here, I do love this highlighter. I like the color, I think they're great highlighters, but after a while they do get a bit worn down, and I don't know if it's very obvious, probably more obvious when I do it live, but the end of it, it's a bit dull because I've used it so often. So even though it looks like it holds its shape, it can go a bit wonky at the end. Same with the Just Fit, that's probably more what I'm talking about, where it's not like a crisp end to the highlight line. So if that's important to you, then definitely go for one like this that has almost a little guard, I'd say, around the chisel tip end of it. I did print all this text with just normal font style. It's not bold. So again, I personally don't think it's made a difference. I've never actually had an issue with highlighters smearing on printer ink, but if you are having that problem, maybe don't do font style in bold and just do normal font style. Maybe do a simple font. So this one is a very sans serif simple font. If you have something with lots of flourishes, and it's got more ink to potentially smear, so maybe consider that as well. But if you're highlighting like a planner or uni notes or anything really, you want it to be a font that's readable, not all decorative and cursive like you put on a wedding invitation, for example. You're not going to be highlighting that. So have a think about what font style you're using. This is all font size 14, which is a good size for highlighting. So if you are drafting your own uni notes or anything like that, I wouldn't do anything more than font size 14. Otherwise, you'll have to start to double highlight and it will just take way too long. So you can see the wax highlighters here. They're not as wide unless you want to really push down and use up a lot of the wax, which is not very economical. And the Tombow is also a bit thinner, as you saw. So if you write small, that could be another good option for you. But yeah, those ones are my recommendations. I hope you found this video helpful. I will have links to some more highlighter reviews down below. I did do an entire comparison of all different highlighter brands. As you can see, I have quite a few of them. If you want a detailed comparison, I'll have the link to where you can download that as well. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.